My name's Sacha Husband. Graduated in spring 2022, so I enrolled in September 21. So I was doing micro jobs immediately after graduating. I kind of hit the ground running through Bunny Studio and Fiverr and those online sites. And then in, I want to say, August of that same year, I booked, or I got signed to my agent and booked the next month. So it was a pretty quick turnaround from being repped to getting my first in-studio job. They have almost entirely been commercial. I've had a couple video games here and there, usually just point and click mobile games, but for the most part it's been commercial with the aim of getting more into animation and video games as I go. I had to pinch myself. It was exciting, it was great, because that's kind of the name of the game, is what I've wanted to do from the very beginning, to go in studio and treat it like a job that I go to, as rather than something that is entirely done at home. But it was exciting because it was so familiar. Like on the mic, it was very good training to feel like you were actually going to work every day. And when I went into the studio, it didn't feel like I was landing on the moon. It was like, oh wow, this is all so similar to what it was like in class. And so I didn't have the thing of like what a lot of first-time voiceover artists have, where they're like, oh, so what is the etiquette? Like, how do I interact with, like, that was all taken care of for the 6 months that I was in the program. It was like one-to-one. I mean, you had the engineer, you had the director who was coming in through Zoom, so that was a bit odd, but at the same time, you know, I felt comfortable in front of the mic. The only difference was how everything was laid out in the control room and in the booth. But yeah, I think that OTM was really great in terms of preparing me for, okay, this is how you hit your marks, this is what to expect when you're interacting with the engineer and the director, and yeah, just becoming directable. It was good for making me directable in the scene, so that I wasn't wasting anyone's time and that I was being a professional, I guess. It was amazing. Like, it was super fun to go in and to see the studio and to interact with the script and the people in the room. Like, nerves were there. It was certainly a scary thing to go in for my first professional job, but like I said, it was familiar, and I was mostly shocked at how quickly I was most shocked at how quickly it kind of came about and how fast it was, because I was in and out in 45 minutes, and yeah, it was just super fun. It was a radio ad for a telecommunications company in Alaska, and I was cast as like the goofy husband, the goofy boyfriend, and I've kind of been typecast in that role, which I'm so happy for. Like, it's a really fun part to play. Yeah, and there was a pre-recorded wife who I was acting across from, and yeah, just did, I don't know, however many takes it was, tried my options. Yeah, and then it was a lot of waiting around for the director to pitch it to the producers, who I didn't hear. But then after a while, they just said, yeah, you're all done, you're good. And I thought, is that it? Okay. So I'd say like the main difference is that it is a school setting, and so you're interacting with a lot of people on a daily basis. And when you're a voice actor full-time, a lot of it is pretty solitary. You're doing a lot of auditioning from home, you're sending in tapes, you're doing micro jobs, you're trying to stay busy. So in the sense that the interaction that you have with people is far less, I think that's the major difference. However, I think in terms of preparing you for how you interact with people when you do, that was how I was prepared. And so a lot of just being in studio and knowing how to do the job, like, that's where the preparation came in. And it's like a muscle, it's a reflex, so that when I'm back in the studio, it's second nature now, because I just did so much of it when I was here. Yeah, I had the benefit of doing a lot of carpentry to get my studio up to snuff, and so I built my own baffles and did a lot of work to get my booth industry ready. And I'm really happy that that's never been something that's been called into question. Like, I haven't had either a client or my agent say, you know, there's something going on in this space. Like, it sounds good, and it's cool because that was drilled into us from day one of like, get your sound treated space in order, because that's what people are looking for now. And yeah, if I didn't have that, I can't say that I'd have as much success. Yeah, I mean, that's huge. It's a huge part of the industry now. As a professional, you have to market yourself. Like, you are a commodity. You have to figure out how to sell yourself. You have to know your brand. You have to know the qualities that make you different from other voice actors. And social media is also like huge, and that's like the way you get that out there. You have to have an Instagram, you have to have a TikTok, you have to have a website at the very least. Yeah, and you have to figure out a way to distinguish yourself online, because the traditional the traditional method of getting it out there, just having your agent kind of advocate for you, is pretty antiquated. So you have to be very personable and show yourself to the market you have to show yourself to the market and show how people, you have to show people how you're going to present yourself in a professional setting. There was never a moment where they said, you won't need this, so forget about, like they said from the get-go, my instructors were saying, you have to be aware that this is the age we're living in, and that we have to make use of these tools at our disposal. So it did come as a shock when I graduated, and you know, I didn't see the spikes when I wasn't posting as much. You have to kind of, you know, still remind people that you are like who you are and like what you can offer. Yeah, I mean, I've had to take a lot of classes outside of school. Michael Grant, who is the voice and movement instructor, always said, you know, learning doesn't stop when you graduate from OTM, and you have to find ways to keep that muscle worked out and to stay loose and to keep developing as a performer. So I've been taking different comedy classes. I took a stand-up class the year after I graduated, and for the last year I've consistently been in improv classes, and that's been massive in terms of just being spontaneous and staying loose in the booth, and also learning how to be funny, which, I mean, so much of commercial work is instilling humor. It's been such a godsend. It's been so nice, and yeah, I've been doing pretty consistent work with Instant Theatre, not only in classes, but also just in shows that they've been putting on. And I definitely see a direct parallel between the choices I make on stage and the choices I make in the booth. And that's just like one aspect of classes that could be beneficial, because I've had friends who have taken singing classes, have taken acting classes. You just have to stay versatile. You have to find ways to continue to develop as a performer, because yeah, you can only get so much of it on your own, and you need to like get it from other people. Well, I'd say first and foremost, the thing that I got from on the mic is the acceptance to fail. It's you hold yourself to a high standard as a performer, and that you want to, you know, hit dingers all the time, but that's just not the reality. And you just have to, and a part and parcel with that, I guess you could count it as like a second thing, is that, you know, you got to give yourself permission to play. You have to get in the booth and not think of, you know, being this rigid, like I have to hit my mark. No, you actually, the directors you're working with want to see you try things out. They want to see you explore your own performance and get to a place that only you can get to. And if you're, you know, holding yourself back and you're putting a wall between you and what you potentially could be doing, yeah, that's not doing anyone any favors. And, you know, you gotta be authentic and show your aspect of yourself to the people who are casting you and the people who are directing you. And I guess like a third thing, I don't know, I think it was just the access to professionals. Every single person who taught me was a working voiceover actor in their aspect of the industry, whether it be audiobooks, whether it be video games or animation or commercial. And, it wasn't theoretical. It wasn't talking as if they had only learned it in a book. They were going out to jobs after classes or before classes. And you really got the sense that they had the training and the background and the sort of professional standing, that they knew what they were talking about. It wasn't they were talking out of thin air or like out of a vacuum, that they were just speculating. They knew how to get the best out of the students, and yeah, I'd like to think that they got it out of all of us in our class. I mean, it's the fear that I still have of, you don't know where your next job is coming from. And it can be scary when, realistically, weeks go by where you don't get work. And that is also just the role of a performer in, sort of the capitalistic system that we have. There's not always going to be someone knocking at your door. And I think the thing that it goes back to what we were saying, that you have to be your biggest advocate. You have to get out there and say, I can offer something that no one else can. Let me show you. And you do that in your auditions, and you do that in your self-marketing. You do it in cold calls, through direct marketing. It all ties back to showing people, you may not think that you need me, but you do, because only I can perform in this way. And yeah, I mean, that's where your next paycheck is going to come from. And so I think that fear is also a big inspiration for me, and it's a big driving motivation, because it keeps me hungry and it makes me want to keep going out there and get more for myself. The instructors here were so honest about the realities. They weren't sugarcoating anything. They weren't saying, oh, you're going to graduate and with this piece of paper, all the doors are... No. If I've learned anything from arts education, it's that you go in to enrich yourself, to get the education so that you can teach yourself how to do the work. It's not a key that's going to unlock all the doors for you. It's really the tools that once you graduate, that's your domain. You got to figure out how to implement them. So yeah, I think that it was good in the sense that all the instructors were saying, we're giving you free reign over this incredible studio, and what you do with this time, that comes down to you. We're not gonna make you better. Only you can really do that. We're just giving you access to, our expertise, this equipment, this facility. And I'm so grateful for that, because, you guys opened your doors, and it was like a kid in a candy shop here. I was just so happy to come and play every day. I don't know. I think that it's all the secret to my success is kind of a life's pursuit. It's something that I would say I seek outside of my career, but also feeds into why I'm successful in voice acting. It's understanding who I am. It's understanding how I perform. I mean, it all comes back to discovering self and discovering voice. And yeah, I mean, I'd like to say that I had it all figured out when I graduated On the Mic, but I think that On the Mic, what it did was it instilled this questioning inside of me of who are you at this moment? What are you at this age, at this time in your life, in this place, what are you able to offer? And that's not an easy question for anyone to answer in any field, but it kept me curious. It kept me evaluating my interests, my strengths, how I'm developing in any given field, and tying it back into, well, how does that make me a good performer? And yeah, I'd say that that's been sort of the consistency since I graduated. I love how the classes have just made me curious about myself and about the world, and got me listening to both commercial and animated voiceover, and seeing how I can use that to inform my own performance and find my own unique voice. So yeah, I guess that would be it. if voiceover is something that you're inherently interested in, I'd say do it, because I've always had an inkling that I wanted to be a performer. I've always wanted to be involved in voiceover. Vancouver's like such a great hub for it. And yeah, I just think back on the 6 months that I spent in the program, and it was all time incredibly well spent. I was so happy that I got the opportunity to do it. And yeah, I'm also very serious about making it my life and my career. And if you are in a similar position, you think this is something you would want to do full time, I'd say do it, because you're not going to get better preparation for the industry outside of these walls. And there's such a focus on just getting the best out of all of the students that, yeah, I just think is so invaluable for this industry. I would say that my confidence is coming from just how, trying to find the best way to describe it. Yeah, you gain confidence with every job that you take, like from the smallest jobs to sort of the bigger, higher paying jobs. Because, you know, post-COVID, everything has become so isolated that it can be pretty hard to know how you fit into the industry as a whole. But when you book jobs in person or you go to meetups, like there's a voiceover jam that's happening tonight actually in Coquitlam, you start to become part of the community. You start to see other people that are doing the same thing as you. And when those meetings turn into more work or familiarity, it really gives you the sense that, oh, I'm actually part of something really cool. And chances are when you meet people in voiceover, there's a passion there, there's an interest. And when you see that that is all feeding into how you are developing as a voiceover artist, it's super encouraging. Like, I'd say that it brings me a lot of joy and confidence to do a job and then through that get recommended for other work. Yeah, because it's difficult when you're just a name on a page or you're just a name auditioning for a role. But you know, you got to set yourself apart. You got to show that you're a good performer, that you're good at being directed. And from there, like, more is going to come in. And I found that to be entirely true. Being a good performer is also just like, you know, being a good person and showing up and being a professional. And that's all been extraordinarily helpful for me. Definitely, and it is. And, you know, I've had so many conversations with people because, like, before I got into voiceover, people would say things about the quality of my voice, and this is not like a brag, but they'd say, oh, you know, you have a voice for radio, you've got a voice for voiceover. And the thing that I learned from this program is that everyone has a voice for voiceover. Everyone can perform. Just because you have a certain quality to your voice doesn't mean you can't do this. And everyone is looking for your voice. Or there is someone out there looking for your voice. Like, you go onto these sites and it distinguishes all the different types of English accents, and they're looking for everyone. You could speak English with an African accent, with a, you know, South Asian accent. It doesn't matter. Like, you are a value to this industry. You're a value to sort of the world listening for your voice. And I think that the beauty of the program is it brings that out. I think you gotta have belief in yourself. Like, you can't half-ass it. Like, if you come in and you're not sure about, oh, I don't know if I can, you're done, you're cooked. You're not gonna like get very far because people are gonna pick up on that. You have to just wholeheartedly just step into the booth and say, like, I am this person. I am going to be the voice of whatever. If it's an animated role, if it's a commercial role, it doesn't matter. You just have to jump into it as yourself, because that's something that no one else can do. And it's cliche to say, like, oh, just be yourself. But, like, yeah, when you figure out how you fit into the industry and how you fit into, like, the role of being a voiceover artist, that's when you're fully realized. And it doesn't matter if, you know, your voice is a certain quality. When people hear that you are authentically yourself, that's what they want. Oh God, I mean, it's so fun. I get to play every day. It's not it's not a conventional career by any stretch of the imagination. You know, I'm not clocking in at an office. There isn't someone like throwing work down on my table saying like, I want this done by, no, like you're doing all of that for yourself. Which like, you know, is a challenge. It's not something I'm good at inherently, but it's a skill that I'm picking up. And I'm so glad that I get to do this, because for all the downtime that we have as performers, when we actually get to do it, like there's nowhere I'd rather be. It's so fun to just get to pretend and to do something different every single day. I have variety in my work. I get the flexibility to do other things. I'm currently producing a podcast. I get to perform improv. I just love the lifestyle. Like, it gives me a lot of flexibility, as I said, to be the most me I can be, I guess. It's interesting because I've been in several industries in the last 10 years where the question of, is this going to be viable 10, 15 years from now, especially with the threat of AI and all that that encompasses. I would say that it's a challenge. It's not an easy career, but you know, I think that if you are really passionate about it, it's worth it. And in terms of AI, like, I don't think that that's going to be taking our jobs away anytime soon, because there is a heart and an emotion to the human voice that machines can't replicate. And it's going to take a lot more time before that goes away. And also, why would you want to take it away? Like, as I said, everyone's got an interesting voice, and if everything becomes the same, no one's going to want to listen. And so they're going to want to go back to people. So in terms of it being a viable career, yes, it is. You have to work your butt off. You have to audition a ton. You have to stay confident that, you know, opportunities will come, and you got to learn. You got to continue learning so that you can become the best performer you can be. But if you're in it for the long haul, if you're excited about the work, if it is like the one thing you want to do, then I'm confident that it's viable. I think that it will come, and you just have to be patient and diligent and tenacious and just keep going at it. Because yeah, there's no job like it, and there's nothing I'd rather be doing. You have to stay flexible. You have to be curious. You have to keep wanting to learn and wanting to grow personally and professionally, because so much of my work, it comes from and is informed by my real life experiences. And so you can't always be focused on the career. You have to take a step back sometimes. And I think, as Philip Seymour Hoffman said, you got to fill up the tank. You have to learn how to inform the performance. And it can be challenging, because if you're craving that success and it's not coming fast enough, you might just want to like power through. But you kind of just have to learn how to inspect like your own sort of qualities and figure out how to improve them and how to keep learning and developing. Like this improv I've been doing for the last year, I think it's been probably one of the best things for my improv career. And I'm also incredibly serious about it now. Like, I wouldn't have thought that this thing that I'm so focused on when I'm doing it would have this knock-on effect for my voiceover career, but it does. Everything is connected, and when you take those lessons and you put them into your voiceover, like, it gets so much better.